I know that Susan sent the minutes on Friday, or the minutes were sent out on Friday. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review. And if you could let me know if you found any errors in the minutes, now is the time to do so.
Right now, we only have 6. We need 7 for a quorum. So if we could review them, yes, but we cannot officially approve them until we get one more participant.
Thank you.
Did we hear any information from people who could not make it tonight?
I have not received any information, no.
Okay, thanks. I talked with Marie the other day and thought she was going to be on. So.
And Angelo is joining now, so we are good to go once he is confirmed.
Are there any corrections to the meetings as they've been distributed? If there are no corrections, the meetings stand approved as distributed. The next order of business will be the public comment. And I'd just like to say, I'd like to thank everybody who has joined the committee. We're really trying to get those things rolling now. So you probably should be trying to meet at least once a month. And that may entail, connecting with me to find out if is there anything that you need to kind of talk about in your meetings if it does not come out of this meeting itself between now and then, so that you can have information to report to the board during these meetings when we have them. So again, thank you everybody who's joined the committee. Look forward to everyone participating eagerly in those committees and get everything kind of moving forward. That stated,
I'm sorry, excuse me. I have a correction to the notes. I'm now seeing that I'm driving, so I had to wait till I stopped. But I am actually a part of the Parent Engagement, Academic Excellence, and Compliance Committee, not the Marketing, Enrollment, and Finance Committee.
Okay, Parent Engagement. Okay, we'll make a note on that. And
thank you. As an educator, that's really important to me. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, so that will take us to our next order of business, which I believe is the report from Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, so the next thing on the agenda is the movement of funds resolution. It's a continuation of the conversation we had at the last meeting, where we talked about the ability to transfer funds on a short-term basis between different entities that work through the Children's Guild Alliance. In your packet today, you should have received a resolution that includes a discussion, again, a reiteration of what we discussed, as well as an exhibit that shows the actual form that we would use to effectuate any kind of transfers. Just as a point of reference, there's currently a lending to the DC Charter School from the Children's Guild Alliance of $857,000. This is a fairly common occurrence in that funding of the management fee on a monthly basis, as well as funding of payroll on a monthly basis, is usually happening at the Children's Guild Alliance level. And then we're collecting the funds a month in arrears because of cash flows to DC Charter School. And so there's generally a balance of a lending of somewhere between $650,000 and $850,000 on a monthly basis from the Alliance to the charter school, just as a point of reference of how the monies flow. And so you have a motion in front of you, and it's up for your discussion and decision whether you want to approve the resolution.
Right. Make a motion that we approve the movement of the funds among the guild. Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
All those opposed? Having not heard any opposition, the movement of the funds is adopted between the Children's Guild Alliance entities.
Thank you very much. Moving on, I have the next piece of the agenda as well, which is a presentation of financial results. And we'll start with the second quarter financial results. You should have received a one-page document that shows a balance sheet on the upper half and the statement of activities, which is akin to an income statement on the bottom. And I'll just give you a summary as you glance at the page. The headline is that we're running ahead of budget, and we expect to run ahead of budget throughout the entire fiscal year. But here's a little bit of detail. Revenues are $893,000 below budget year to date, and that's due to enrollment levels. However, grant revenues are $45,000 ahead of budget year to date, so that's a good thing. Personnel costs are down $618,000 below the year-to-date budget. And when you add the other operating expenses that are also $418,000 below budget year-to-date, we see the total operating expenses are running $1.036 million below budget year-to-date. We have a net operating income running at $97,000 ahead of budget year-to-date. And our change in net assets is $315,000 actual versus a budgeted $98,000 budget, which says that all the numbers I've already told you, we're $217,000 ahead of budget. And again, we're expected to track ahead of budget throughout the end of the year. And on the balance sheet, cash is $2.4 million higher than it was at 12/31/19. So again, we're looking at 12/31/20 figures, second quarter, and cash is running at $4.48 million on your balance sheet right now. Now, I do want to give you a bit of background here. This is based on an original budget, and we had provided internally from an operational standpoint, we created a revised budget based on revised enrollment numbers that are down because of COVID. And even using that revised budget that we're only using internally, we're still running $176,000 ahead of budget for that change in net assets. We're still running ahead for the year. So there is a revised budget. It has never been put in front of the board for approval. We're now moving through the third quarter. We can certainly provide it to the board and have you review it, and we could put it up for approval at the coming meeting. But it really isn't necessary to change how we're operating. And again, we're monitoring both. But I put this out there. It wasn't really on the agenda, but it's a point of information for everyone. So you may want to decide to review it. You may want to decide to put it up for adoption. You may want to review it and just decide, okay, we've seen it. Understand that from an operational standpoint, we are paying attention to that revised budget, making sure we're in line and not overspending and protecting the assets of the charter school. Are there any questions on the second quarter results?
My perspective is that we don't need to approve a revised budget. I think the reporting is sufficient, and as long as we're going to be tracking the revision going forward, that from my perspective seems adequate.
Okay. And I intend to report both to you, but the bulk of the detail will be with the existing budget because that's our fiduciary responsibility. But you will have this other information provided.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Last on the agenda for me is a review of the fiscal year 2020 budget. That year ended June 30th of 2020. So the audit has been completed. We received a clean opinion. It's been distributed to all the appropriate parties to satisfy the grants and loan document, all the requirements and covenants. We did inherit, well, when I came in, I inherited a late filing of the audit with the DC Public School Charter Board. We were made aware of it. We worked with the charter board. They allowed us to file it late. We got an exception. There are no negative consequences of that, but I feel it my duty to report that to you. But all is well, and we're working in lockstep with the charter board, the public school charter board. So highlights of what you're looking at in terms of this multi-page financial statement. I'll start with revenues. Revenues for this year versus last year. So again, June 30, 2020 versus June 30, 2019. We had 13.144 million in revenue versus 13.558 for the prior year. That is down $414,000 from prior year. And we also ran $748,000 below budget for revenue for the year. Again, this is last fiscal year. This was the surprise of shutdowns in early March, and it had, severe effects on revenue because of attendance and enrollment. Our expenses for 2020 were 12.691 million versus 13.217 million. So from the prior year, that was down $515,000. Just to recap, our revenue was off by 414,000. Our expenses were down by 515,000. So that's a good variance. We did well. We had our savings. And we are 1.1 million below budget for expenses from last year. So again, a good turn of events because we were able to quickly pivot to address the new needs of the organization and right-size the organization dealing with COVID. The change in net assets was $453,000 versus prior year of $340,000. Those would both be increases. That's akin to a net income. That was up by $112,000 from the prior year, again, based on the savings, and $580,000 above budget for the year, again, because of savings. We had originally budgeted a loss for 2020 of $127,000, but in fact had a net increase of $452,000. So that was, again, the organization pivoted quickly and did as well as could be expected in the midst of this pandemic. Our cash increased $57,000 year over year. And then something new that I don't believe has been reported before, I've started to do ratio analysis on our financial statements in the way that you would approach any not-for-profit. And so we're showing improvements in a number of them, and I will highlight 5 of them. I'll give you just a brief explanation of what they are. I'm not going to give you the numbers. I'm just going to tell you that we're trending in the right direction. The first is a ratio called the defensive ratio. And that essentially tells you how much cash on hand do you have versus your average monthly expenses. So in this instance, I just told you I wasn't going to tell you numbers, but I'm telling you numbers. We have 2.25 months worth of expenses, cash sitting on hand. That's if another dime didn't come in, we can make it through 2.25 months without getting another dime coming into the bank. In comparison, last year we were at 1.85 months. So this trend is trending in the right direction. And as we're building cash and saving on expenses. The next ratio that I looked at was the liquidity ratio, which speaks to the ability to pay all liabilities just using current assets. And again, we're moving in the right direction. We're unable to pay 100% of liabilities because there are liabilities that are long-term in this number, but our short-term, we're moving in the right direction, which bodes well for moving forward in terms of liquidity. This is an indicator of if sometime in the future we're going to have a liquidity problem. We do not. We're trending in the right direction in terms of liquidity, which is a good thing for the long-term health of the organization. We are now we're going to look at the debt ratio, which is the ability to pay off all debts with all assets. And again, we are in very good shape there, trending in the right direction. I won't bother you with numbers. Our net operating ratio, which is essentially our net operating income as a percentage of total revenues, is trending in the right direction. So that's good. And program services revenue, which is basically a measure how much of our revenue is being used for programmatic expenses versus administrative and managerial expenses. We have a pretty high level and we're trending higher. So we're using more and more of our revenue to support our programs as opposed to supporting non-program, not stuff directly for the kids. And so those 5 ratios I wanted to share with you. It's the first time I've shared this with the board. I want you to understand that we're tracking these now internally and watching for these early indicators of how things are doing. It's just another gauge of how the organization is performing. And again, they're all trending in the right direction. Very strong positive. With that, those are my prepared remarks. I'm happy to take any questions.
This is Michael.
Michael, real quick. I'm sorry, real quick. Before we go on with the question, I just want to make sure everybody understands that this meeting is being recorded and it is available for public consumption afterwards. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, thank you, Robert. Yeah, so I think those key metrics that you've just shared with us are really important to see. So perhaps in future reports, we can have a slide or two that sort of lays those out so that we can, I know you've indicated these are all going in the right direction, but I think from a due diligence standpoint, as board members, it would be important for us to see those. If once we get a fully operating finance committee, then perhaps that can just go through them and that just becomes part of a committee report going forward. But I think those are really important things for us to see.
We'd be pleased to share them or present them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. It's great information to know. And I'm glad that it's now starting to happen as far as the ratios are concerned. Thank you. There are no further questions or comments on Mr. Gordon's financial report. We're going to move to the next order of business.
Thank
which
you.
Which will be the committee assignments and reports, more so on the reports at this point. I know that the committees have kind of just gotten themselves together over the past month or been formed over the past month. So it's unlikely that you all have met, but we probably should be meeting, like I said earlier, at least once a month so that we have something to report out when we get to this point in the meeting. That stated, I'm just going to ask that each, if the chair is here for each of the committees, to make a quick report on what has taken place and what plans to be taking place in the next month. So with that stated, let's hear from the governance committee, Michael.
Sure. We have not as a committee met. However, Marie and I talked on related matters since I wasn't at the last board meeting to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Our work will likely be focusing on filling out the officers' positions as well as reviewing the bylaws and making recommendations for changes as we uncover opportunities to do so. So I think Angelo and Marie and I I'll be scheduling a meeting within the next week or two, and then we'll start diving in to a work plan for the remaining of this school year, and anticipating what we'll be needing from next school year.
Thank you, Michael. Is anyone here from the marketing committee? Yolanda? I don't think she's here. I didn't see her pop in.
Yolanda's here. I mean, I see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was having issues with my connection. So we have not met yet. We should be meeting sometime this month, but I did get a chance to review the photographs and video. We're starting with the playground. So I did get a chance to look at those, and I do have a couple of questions, and I don't know if it's better to meet first as a group within the committee, or to talk about it with the entire group, but I was able to look at the files that were sent, and we'll have more information once the whole committee meets, hopefully later this month.
So in my opinion, I think it depends on what the question is that you may have as far as whether it's something you want to present.
Yeah, just some questions I'm just thinking about for when we meet as a committee, we may want additional information about plans for with the makeup of the student body, plans for the age ranges, just so that we can do our best job in reviewing the information for the playground. For example, if the plan is to expand to younger children, what the time frame is for that. So when we're thinking about the playground, we can make sure that the playground would be able to be accessed by children with a variety of ages, those kinds of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a committee issue. And then that also raises a question to me: is everybody? I guess I'll speak by committee. Have you got in contact with the support that we have from the Children's Guild for these efforts?
Yeah, so so as far as with scheduling the meeting, yes, we haven't come up with a date yet. We've narrowed down some possible dates, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. So once we actually get the meeting scheduled and get input from everyone, I will have more information.
You know, I'd like to add something, Robert and Yolanda. I think if you don't already know this, Susan McFall will assist you in getting, you know, because it takes time to get these dates, make sure when everybody can come. So all you got to do is, if you let Susan know the times that the chair is available, then she will do the work to make sure that she gets, you know, gets a time when people could come and that you could come, and she'll, you know, talk with everybody about that, make sure that that happens. She'll make sure that whatever materials you need get to everybody in advance. And then, of course, you know, Alicia will, you know, we got to let Alicia know too, because Alicia will handle the minutes for the project. And I was thinking you may need some, I think it's always helpful to make sure that you have, say, the staff member that you might need from the Children's Guild there, for example, like certainly for the playground, you're going to need Brian Daniels. If for no other reason, he knows a lot of the things that are specific about the kids and the ages and how we're trying to move forward on that. And I realized, like, I think the marketing committee is a perfect example of all the things that really need to get done, but you can't, I'm not sure you can get them all done in one at one time, you know, so you'll have a variety of things, but I'm just saying, like, so just to keep in mind, the playground is an important project, and is something that, you know, it has so much to do with admissions. And you know, because parents are interested in that. We don't have much to show in that area. So, you know, we should probably put some of these, I don't know, at one point in time, we ought to make sure that we put some kind of drawings or pictures or something on the website that would be available so that they got some sense of what that might be. But then I was thinking, I know that when it comes to, since admissions and all the things that go with admissions, just how they're going, and problems with, you know, I don't know how many people actually apply. And I know just having a sense of how many kids are going to be leaving, graduating the 8th grade. So not only would you, I think you're going to need Brandon Turner there as well whenever you talk about that. And sometimes when it comes to the building, again, you're going to need Mr. Daniels. So it's like there are a number of these things that have to be addressed by the marketing committee. But you can get at least a lot of information from the staff based on how far down the road they've gotten, and if you're going to need additional information, how you're going to get it, so we can make sure that you get the information you need to make whatever decisions you have to make. So we are here to help you and to do a lot of the legwork so that you can just focus on the issues in the committee rather than just getting a committee meeting established.
Thank you. And Susan has been very helpful already with helping. We've been communicating via email because it would be very difficult for me to do that all by myself. So I really appreciate the support. And I did get to speak to Rob by phone also. So, and I did get your email. So I think all of the information that I've gotten has been very helpful. And I do appreciate all of the support in pulling everyone together and providing all of the information needed as we move forward with the committee.
Okay.
Thank you, Yolanda. Any other questions for the marketing committee? That's stated. We'll go to the parent engagement committee. Is Seema on? And I don't think I saw her.
Seema is not on.
Okay. So we will we'll close the committee reports at this point, and we will move to the principal's report. Mr. Daniels, Dr. Daniels, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm gonna give you all a little bit of information in terms of instruction, a little bit about re-entry. I actually have a couple more of the agenda items that are all bundled into the principal's report, just because it kind of goes hand in hand with what it is that we're dealing with on a daily and a regular basis, and so it'll all be kind of shared in this report. So can you all see the front here?
Yes.
Okay. So all right. So we have just completed our second batch of our iReady assessment. What has been our huge concern as we've moved through this instructional year is looking at the regression and the students' potential loss of information. As we continue to I don't know how to do that. At least to see now, I'm gonna stop the slideshow. I don't.
It's fine the way that it is, Brian. I was just giving you an observation.
Okay, because I thought it was a single one. So sorry everybody for my lack of technological genius here, and thanks for letting me know, Elisa, because I thought I was looking real sweet and fresh, and she was like, no, not yet.
Great.
But what we have seen as of yet is that we are definitely we are not losing kids, which is a great thing right now. We are making slight gains and slight progress across the board, whether it be in the areas of reading or in math. They have pretty much sustained where they are in terms of the area in which they are learning across the board. We have, as you can see, still a large portion of our population is at least 2 grade levels below where they should be functioning. But what this doesn't break down, and I can email out, is just a more defined calculation, which will just show you how each grade level is doing in terms of progress, because they are progressing at a pretty good rate. So from kindergarten through 5th grade, at least between 30 and 40% of the kids are making good progress towards their annual goal. Our 1st grade, actually 60% of our 1st graders have already achieved their annual goals. So kids are moving even in this distance learning, and it's just really good to see that kids are not losing information, and it's really putting us in a good place to set us up for what it is that we're getting ready to do in the second half of the school year, which is to really increase the amount of individualized instruction, with adding a tutorial service to help kids more with one-on-one learning, with some extra enrichment that will take place, whether it be in the evenings or on the weekends, or whatever it is that works best for the parents. So just figuring out different ways to help them be a little bit more supportive in what it is that they're doing. Kids have made a little bit larger gains in the area of mathematics. One of the things that we have seen across really the nation is that most schools are really struggling in the areas of math. Not saying that we're not, because we could be doing a lot better, and we are looking for more resources and more interventions for our kids to be able to gain a better vocabulary and working knowledge of problematic word problem solving and things of that nature, and for them to be able to kind of deconstruct questions as they move through their activities. But they are again making considerable gains. You see, we actually decreased the number of kids that were through to more than 2 grade levels below. It's down from 47% down to 44%. The number of kids went down in the tier 2 area from 20 to 18, and we increased in the area of 1 grade level or above grade level from 33 up to 38. So we always want to see that green area get larger, and the fact that it is getting larger while we're in the midst of the continued virtual learning is still a plus. We do continue to move our hybrid program, where we have here's another slide on that a little bit later. But one of the things that I did want to share to you, just because already is such a big thing for our kids, this is one of our 7th graders. And so they are in the midst of a lot of the things they're doing around Black history. And one of the things that they are always extremely excited about is their progress and their achievement in this area of iReady. So this is one of our babies, Mr. Winslow, and this is what he wrote about himself. It simply states that I'm a Black student. Since the beginning of the year up until now, I've achieved so many things. I have achieved working hard and getting my own money on my own. I've achieved some steps in starting my own business. I've achieved getting good grades in science and other subjects. I've achieved on scoring a 630 on my ELA iReady assignment. I've achieved helping others when I've helped provide for the homeless and packed up trash on the streets. I achieve more and more every day. And when you have a level of students that are able to speak about themselves in that matter, and that they are paying attention, again, not just to themselves, but they're looking into the community for things to do. How can I be a support? How can I reach out? How can I be more of a community member? This is all we can ask for from our kids. And so I'm really excited and for not just Aubrey, but really all of the kids that are really seeing growth in themselves. And this is all we really, strive for as teachers and as, educators that are looking to do more with our kids, and not just focus on the academics were really focused on the whole child, and this is a true example of that. So I'm just so proud of him. So to get back onto that reentry program, this is what we kind of looked like on a breakdown on a daily basis. So on Mondays and Tuesdays, we generally have about 22 students in the building, along with 12 TDAs who are the primary caregivers inside of each of the classrooms where the students are. There are either 1 or 2 behavior coaches in the building, and we have 3 maintenance and 2 cafeteria staff that are working on a daily basis, and 2 or 3 other administrators that are in the building. So we kind of function on a regular basis with in between 45 to 50 people in the staff, in the building on a regular basis. Every Wednesday, we close down again for a deep clean to make sure that we are operating a safe and healthy environment for our students. They still follow the same pattern of all of our kids go through their entry questions and their temperature checks while they're at the bus, so we don't end up riding kids into school if they are not feeling well. It really allows us to make sure that only kids that are healthy and that are not showing or answering any of those questions or being having a cough or being around anyone that has been exposed. They take care of that right there at the bus stop. And so the bus monitors on the bus are also our staff members. So they have been well trained to really pay attention and notice things that are going on with the kids. So we're only putting kids that are healthy onto our buses. Our student enrollment increases on Thursdays and Fridays to 25. Of course, the staffing model stays the same. And then every Friday, when the building, when the students leave the building and the staff is gone, it gets another deep clean so that it is ready to go for students to return back to school on Monday. At the last time that we met back in December, we were really struggling with kids getting in their the universal health and immunization forms. We have really taken a big cut into that number and have gotten 75% of the students information in. So we have access to a lot more students once their parents are ready to send them to school, for them to be able to come in and participate in the hybrid learning program. But we just currently happen to provide, the majority of our students come from either wards 5, 7, or 8. And as of right now, still at the end of January, OSSI and DCPS put out another survey to families, and this was the data that they reported out. Was just that parents and families in Ward 5, 7, and 8 are still 60% of them are still saying that they are less likely to return their students to school and feel more comfortable with them at home with virtual learning. So we're going to continue to make calls and see if we can get some more kids in the building, especially the ones that are struggling and need more support. But with us having more of that data and documentation around the health and immunization forms, it's going to allow us to have more access to them. So hopefully we'll be able to increase that that attendance number as we continue to move through the month of February. As you all know, teachers and staff members that are working directly with kids back in the building have been, we are a part of the 1B vaccination group. I had the pleasure of getting my arm numbed up just last week. And so didn't hurt at all when I got the shot, and I went home talking a whole bunch of trash and saying, everybody needs to get it. It's painless. And then the nighttime hit and my arm went to sleep. But I am completely, and I'm just so glad that I did it. In our community and in our culture, there are just so many people that are nervous and that are scared and that are fearful about what this means or how, if they're going to have an adverse reaction. The data that is in this chart is just around our staff survey, and 60% of them are still on the fence around whether or not this is something that they want to do. We have 20% of them that have already been vaccinated, and another 23 that are looking to be vaccinated. This coming Friday, we actually have an all-staff professional development. And so as a part of that PD, we're actually having a pediatrician that is going to come in and have a session with a Q&A with our staff to give them more information around the production and how the vaccination was, was how it was created, how they were able to do it in such a expedient manner, very different from most vaccinations, and just, how the increase in the support from the government and everybody working because of, just the negative impact just changed the rate of which they have normal access to funding and brilliant scientists to be able to do the work. And hopefully staff will get some of their questions answered so that we can shift some of this number down from the 60% into this red, into this blue area, so that we can get more of our staff that are vaccinated. But again, it is still their choice. Even though that this number is still at 60%, we still have a good number of staff that are willing to come back in the building. But I know for myself and Kathy, the more people that we do have that are vaccinated would make it a lot easier for us to continue to expand our hybrid learning and our re-entry back into the building. Did you want to add anything to that, Kathy?
No, that was great, Brian. Thank
you. As we are continuing to work on all of the middle states accreditation data as we continue to dive into our self-study. So we have created all of these subgroups. There is a different chair for each of the subgroups. Every chairperson in the subgroup will come to our monthly iReady meetings to report out on their findings and the information. We have a working document on Teams that we all have access to be able to upload any new information so that things are all kept in one location. We have 3 current surveys that we are in the process of getting complete. Our staff survey is almost done. We have a parent survey that has to go out, and we are connecting a lot of our staff members with parents to ensure that they will have access and support getting through the survey, because it is quite lengthy and quite wordy. We were allowed to modify it so that it meets the needs of not just our students but our parents, and we've done that. But still getting through all of the questions is going to be a task. So we have created an incentive program also to invite parents and get them a little bit excited about giving us good feedback around what it is that the questions are asking them. And for the student survey, teachers are going to do it inside of their classrooms as a whole group activity. That way, again, they're getting all of the information read to them, and all they have to do is make sure they're checking the box that they're looking to check for that survey. So after we complete these surveys, we'll by the time we come back again in 2 months, we probably will be extremely close to the completion of this portion of it, and we'll be moving into the space where we'll be looking towards our site visit that we'll have from the Middle States Accreditation Group. General data, there's typically a lot more data on this page when we're in person, but there just is not right now because we're primarily still virtual. Our attendance rate is still not where we want it to be because we, along with most of the other schools in the district, are still struggling to keep hold of our kids as they continue to be shuffled around, not just through the city, but really all over the country. We have several kids that are down in North Carolina, some are in Virginia, Some have even gone north to New Jersey and New York, depending on where they have family members that are able to take care of them. And when there's that sort of movement and transition, it's just been difficult to get them into the classrooms on a regular basis. And of course, that has added to our low attendance rate. We had to actually send a letter to OSSI in explanation of this, but as we questioned other charter schools, this was it seemed like it was a regular occurrence that many schools had to do, because again, it is just a struggle right now and a fight for many of the families that are in our communities. So this is not something that is abnormal right now in the city, but we are still working with our attendance group, with our parent liaison. Ms. Giles is busting her tail on a daily basis, trying to get support and community resources for parents to be able to get what they need in order to get their kids into school. So formally, as always, thank you for that, Ms. Giles. Just like we're having for the parents, we are also setting up a pediatrician to come to one of our parent town halls, because again, they have questions just like many of our teachers do, and providing them a platform to be able to get their questions answered directly from a physician is we feel like is going to be a great topic for our next town hall. We primarily have been focusing on high school admissions in the last couple of town halls, and we have over 80% of our 8th graders, which is a pretty large bunch, that have completed and submitted their high school paperwork. So they actually have a choice in where they may attend high school. Those that don't submit their paperwork on a timely basis, they may just be relegated to their neighborhood high school. But having a large number of 80% of the kids and parents that completed that is actually awesome. 2 of our kids actually applied for Duke Ellington, and both had callbacks. One was today, the other was on Friday. So we are looking at, again, this is what it is that we're looking to do, moving towards this performing and visual and creative arts school. Now we may have 2 of our own that are in the school as we move forward. So we are definitely headed in the right direction. Extremely proud of all of our kids and all of the work that has been done. I gave you guys a little bit of the information that was going on before it actually happened in December, but our dream came true for all of our babies, and Mr. Russell Westbrook came and blessed all of our students with a pair of his signature Jordans. Came to the building on a Monday evening and passed them out. It was an absolutely awesome activity, event, and a way for just a NBA superstar to bless our community, our parents, our students, and just the community was just so uplifted and motivated by his kind gesture. There is a little video clip here. I won't play it right now, but we can come back to that later if we have some time. I think that is it for me. Does anybody have any questions for that lengthy, long report?
Brian, I think that was a great report. Thank you for all that information. I did have a question about, I have a couple questions actually, but one of the more probably easier ones to answer is if you could kind of run through, what is that vaccination process like for, how, from the beginning in, do the faculty or staff have to sign up, and then how do you arrange for them to come out and give you guys the shots and all that?
Absolutely. So and when I say we, public charter schools are on a different band than DCPS. So we received an Excel spreadsheet from the public charter board, and there were 3 things that our staff members had to do in order to qualify. They had to be ready to come back into the building to work. They had to be working directly with students. And they had to be, of course, willing to get both vaccines. Both shots. We created a list of about 70 staff members, and we submitted that list to the Public Charter Board. Each individual staff member in turn got an email from the Public Charter Board that had their own personal information in the email. We partner, we being the DC Charter Alliance, partner with One Medical, which is a medical company in the, well, really, it's not just in the district, but it has an office here in the district. And One Medical is, a web-based, has a website that has an actual app. So everybody has to log on. You get a free membership to the One Medical placement. You go in. Now, it was extremely difficult in the first couple of sets to get an appointment because everybody got the email at the same time. So everyone flooded the website at the same time. And so what ended up happening was that they had to expand the service center from just One Medical office buildings to now, like I got my vaccination last week down at the new DC arena that's over in the, where St. E's used to be. And they have a great system that's set up there. They are running about 3 different, doctors or nurses or that are in each of the section. Once you set up for your time, you get there about 5 minutes prior to. You literally walk into a space. They do your whole body temperature by you just standing in front of this machine. Very few people that are there because they only want you to come in, a couple of minutes prior to your appointment. You stand. I mean, I was probably there for about 10 minutes just because I guess they got backed up somewhere, but filled out my little card. They gave me the directions. I got in line, stood there for about another minute and a half. You get your shot. They have you sit for another 15 minutes just to make sure that you don't have any adverse reactions. Then they set up your next appointment right then and there on the spot. And now I'm just waiting 3 weeks until my follow-up appointment. But one of the things that has become much better is that the mayor has gotten involved, and they're getting much more structured in terms of appointments being released. And so I think what they did at the beginning was, one, there wasn't a clear direction as to what was supposed to happen, but now we got just a clear email that went out this morning. So every Monday and Friday they will release. Every Monday they will release sets of appointments at 12 o'clock and another set at 7 o'clock. So I have staff members that are, their alarm clocks are going off right now because they're looking to get into this 7 o'clock batch of appointments. And when I get new staff members that are, we're getting ready to have more kids come in, all I have to do is add staff members to the list. They do an update to their list every day at 4 o'clock. So the 5 new staff members that reached out to me and said, Mr. Daniels, I want to get vaccinated, I submitted their information this morning. At 4:05, they got an automated email that added them to the list. So there are 5 of the staff members that are now waiting, to pick up the phone in 2 minutes to potentially get on the list. So DC is, they're doing what they can. We even got they reached out because the One Medical wasn't really working well. So DCPS shared some of their vaccinations with the charter board. And there was an event last Saturday that happened at Dunbar Senior High School where Public Charter Board staff members could go onto this site and register if they could, make it down to Dunbar on a Saturday morning. And several of our staff members received their vaccination last Saturday at Dunbar. So, they're getting it figured out. The more that they're, the more they get access to, because I hear that there's just been more of a push for vaccinations to come into the city, just because there wasn't very much that was sent into DC at all to start with. So it looks like we're headed in the right direction. And now that they've, really ironed out the kinks, the process doesn't seem to be that hard anymore.
If I could just add on to Brian's report related to vaccine, I do think it's important for the board to understand this was a huge win for DC Charter Network as a whole. And I just think as a new board, a lot of new board members, it might be important contextually to understand some of the collaboration that developed between DC public schools, DC Charter Board, and OSSI, the Office of the State Superintendent. Um, Prior to the COVID global pandemic, those three entities worked in complete silos. And so there was a lot of misinformation, there was a lot of conflicting information, there was a lot of repeat requests for the same information. And Brian sits at a school where he is an entire local education agency. Much like Montgomery County is a local education agency, Prince George's is a local education agency, DC Public is a local education. Brian's school is of the same magnitude and is expected to function independently as such. And we're very grateful when COVID hit that these three entities immediately collaborated and provided a much more coordinated experience. And additionally, when it came to the vaccines, what was really important is that we belong to a lobbying group called the DC Charter Alliance, and all of the charter schools essentially belong to this group. And we've got a new leader this year, in Dr. Shannon Hodge, who we know very well, and she immediately took a great leadership role in advocacy for DC charter schools, and we would have been completely independent in figuring out how to get our staff vaccinated had Dr. Hodge not stepped up and organized our own vaccination partnership with One Medical, like Brian just described. So that really only happened through the collaboration of OSSI, DCPS, and DC Charter Board that occurred because of this in this last year, but also because of her leadership and advocacy. And it provided access and opportunity to charter school staff that would not have been, even though Brian describes the complications that everybody's familiar with, it would have been much more challenging without Dr. Hodges' advocacy and the support of the DC Charter Alliance. So I just think important contextually for you as board members to understand who our advocacy people are out there and the progress that they're making. So as you're out in your own networking opportunities, Paul Kine, and the mayor's deputy mayor of education, done a phenomenal job leading a very coordinated COVID response for the last year, and we're very grateful for that.
I do have another question, but I want to let anyone else ask a question if there is one. And if not, my second question is, I guess I want to get an understanding, and this might not, maybe we don't necessarily have to know this data point, but I'm kind of wanting to understand how we compare not only to other charter schools, but maybe to some of the DCPS schools for different metrics where appropriate. In your report, I mean, you hit several different things outside of the vaccination, you hit several different things, but how does that compare to, I guess, DCPS schools or other charter schools? Maybe as something that we might want to introduce in future reports.
Are you speaking, Mr. Seabrook, about like academic attendance, discipline data, and those kinds of?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely, you'll definitely get updates on that on a regular basis. Right now in this past year, most data points are really, have become, invalidated, honestly, and we'll be renorming, an entire country's baseline data regarding these indicators, which will be an interesting educational experience for all of us. But I will take the opportunity to point out to the new board members that we are also in the alternative framework. And there's a small cadre of alternative schools and adult education schools who fall under the alternative management framework. most of the schools are in what's called the PAF, and that's, you know, you kind of your traditional metrics, and it's those, they are compared to each other, and it's apples to apples comparison. But because of the unique student population that we've chosen to serve, we fall in the alternative framework. And so our data will never align with that of the majority of schools in either DC charter network or DC public schools. And it's reported as such. We're so we certainly will bring those comparatives, but I think it's important also to highlight that, you know, because of the nature of the students we choose to serve, 50% students with disabilities, 100% poverty, 25% homeless, that to compare us to Washington Latin would be an inappropriate comparison.
Well, one of the things that we can, and I look forward to sharing with you, as Kathy said, is you know, we still hold ourselves accountable to looking and paying attention to that data. But again, as everyone is really struggling to, well, not struggling, everybody's really working so hard to make sure that our kids have you know, what we need on a daily basis. One of the things that we will be doing as we move into this second half of the school year is starting to look at more and more of these data sets, you know, with schools that we have, you know, partnerships and relationships with, as we share information, such as what I've shared with you, with each other to see how, you know, we're doing, you know, with these same data points in our smaller circles. And just so you know, as one of the other things that, you know, we're just in the process of getting ready to deal with is the fact that, you know, ASEAN has, you know, the Office of the State Superintendent has stated that we're now still getting ready to proceed with PART. So we're getting ready to have to deal with the whole rollout of a standardized assessment and how this is going to look and how it's, you know, all of the staff and teachers and everybody is so worried about the validity and how it's going to be rolled out and if we're going to be able to manage it and if it's going to yield data. But most teachers are just concerned with, you know, you're taking away more of the instructional time that I need to be in front of my kids as we move these things out. So I can get you, you know, just some data to kind of compare it so you can see, you know, how our apple compares to some of the oranges in the area. Because like Kathy said, there are very, very few schools in the District of Columbia that qualify for this alternative accountability framework. And so we are literally in a basket completely by ourselves and we are not held to the same standard. But like I said, we'd like to know how our apples stack against the oranges in the area so that we can at least gauge ourselves to say whether or not we're making good progress and how is it that, you know, again, we're going to continue to reach out and get that other layer of kids that are going to want to come to our, you know, performance and visual art school. We're going to need to be able to show them this data. So as we continue to work towards that, we'll definitely share that information with the board.
And just one more comment, Mr. Seabrooks, that the data Brian started his presentation with, the iReady mid-year assessment data, that's a growth measure. And that's our academic metric by which the DC Charter Board will evaluate our progress. And so because many of our students arrive on our doorstep in 6th grade, 3 grade levels behind, you know, our task is to demonstrate growth and more than a year's worth of growth every year because of the nature of some of their deficits. And so the iReady data is a growth measure and will help us to monitor that for all of our students.
Thank you. Brian, you had a bunch of, I guess, different bullet points in the agenda. You hit all of them, I'm thinking you did. So that would move us to whether there's any other business at this time. You can please bring it up to the floor.
I have a question, and I apologize if this has already been answered. I did get a tad bit about the standardized testing. I am curious about how are the teachers coping? How are the students coping? How are the families coping with everything? Just like aside from numbers and aside from data, how are they as people? Like, and if that's something that isn't necessarily known, what can Children's Guild do to check in with their families, their students, and their teachers to make sure that they are still alive and well and, you know, able to function as best they can during this pandemic. And then also I am curious about the grace being extended to teachers and students when it comes to the standardized testing and the data that you were talking about earlier. And again, I do apologize if this was mentioned. My connection has been really iffy today.
No, it is no problem at all, Tiff. You know, this is what we do as educators. It's the data, and those are the components that are most important. And for me as a leader, and for me as a principal, it's the core of what it is that I do and who I am as an educator. My teachers are no use to students if they are not healthy themselves. You know, we are trying to bring some light into the homes where these kids are struggling, where they are used to getting to our building, which is their safe haven, which is the space where they can come and be themselves, and they can come and get loved on, because they are having to be, you know, just brought up in just, you know, in such trauma in so many different ways, whether it's the food, whether it's the language that's being used at home, whether it's the ability to just have space and to get away from their siblings and to have their own classrooms and their own space. One of the things that we do on a regular basis, just not last Friday, but the last Friday in January, I took a professional development afternoon and just created a whole a staff production day. Had a DJ on the PD. We did staff superlatives for every staff member that was on the call. Presented them with you know, a certificate. We have to make sure that people are okay. We have to make sure that they are being you know, just recognized, because anybody that is just working right now in general, the amount of work that we're putting in right now, just looking at these screens, is so much different and so much harder, at least for me. I'd rather be walking around my school building in and out of the classrooms and being able to interact with kids, but I have to work twice as hard looking at this screen, and so do all of our teachers. In terms of the students and the families, we have such a staff that is connected in so many different ways with all of our families. I've had to tell people and direct them not to go to homes as much as they used to, because they have to take care of themselves. And we have parents that I literally just got a text message asking, you know, parent asking, you know, Mr. Daniels, I'm broke until Friday. And it's like, we figure out ways to support our families, to make sure that they have, well, just tell me what you need and I'll go to the store tomorrow and drop things, you know, past the house. That's just what we do. So we have, whether it's through Ms. Giles getting phone calls, we have a baby that we just found out that, you know, just came to us, but is 16 years old and was retained twice in the 7th grade, twice in the 8th grade, and we have him now in the second portion of the 8th grade. She just reached out to the other school and found out that this baby found his father passed away in the house. And now we know that there's a whole nother you know, form of support that we now have to create to wrap around this young man and his mother. But we regularly, whether it be through our town halls, whether it be through our 6 social workers, whether it be through our 4 behavior coaches, or whether it be just through all of our teachers, our TAs, it's one of the reasons our staff is as large as it is. And we have over 100 staff members dealing with, you know, 280 kids. Our kids have real issues. Their families are struggling. We need to have the staff to be able to wrap their arms around them virtually right now. And we do that on a regular basis in a lot of different ways, from, you know, lunch with your principal, you know, sending virtual gifts and regular shout outs, just having activities, game nights, and things when parents can come and just share information. So yeah, we do our best to be a full stop shop, because you can't care for kids unless you know what's going on with them. So we really just do embody the whole child. And two of our board members here know, because I wrap my hands around both of their kids, or both of their children, on a regular basis, whether they're in my school or used to be in my school or never were in my school. They're all our babies, and we treat them as such. I was gonna say I beat them, but I didn't want to get in trouble. But I do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have one last question, but it might be a really specific question that we could talk offline about. I am curious about, you guys have urban teachers residents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm curious about how they are doing, especially since I'm thinking specifically about the residents, not any fellows, but they will essentially be teaching in your school next year full time, or as like the official lead teacher, without having actually set foot, I guess, in front of kids and like taught for an extensive period of time, compared to
we're gonna figure it out, because we're already hybrid. We're already working to make sure that our residents get into the classroom with some of the kids before the end of the fourth, so they at least have a quarter. Because that's now our question is, they're doing a great job on the virtual platform, but what is it actually going to look like when you're now sitting in the classroom with students and you don't have that screen in front of you? And what's your actual interaction going to look like? How are you going to feel being around these students? So we are really already on top of that. They are on our vaccine list, and we are looking at getting them back into the building in between the third and fourth quarter, so they have the opportunity to have that interaction with some of the kids. And then we also have ESY, where they'll be able to come back during the ESY and also do some more in-person teaching with kids, so that we can, really get a good feel and make sure that they're comfortable before we have to turn them loose to be their own lead teacher.
Thank you. That's awesome. I know everyone is thinking the same thing when it comes to residents and things like that. Okay.
Anything else for Dr. Daniels and Ms. Lane? Okay, we will move to our next agenda item, which is Mr. Turner and the lottery results report.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Still feel like I'm seeing new faces, so welcome to all of the new board members. My name is Brandon Turner, and I'm the Director of Admissions for the Children's Guild Public Charter School in DC. I'll start my report off by talking a little bit about where we are currently in this school year. So the current enrollment is 282 with an additional 12 non-public students. The goal is 350. To answer a question that was raised earlier, we do have 65 graduating 8th graders, which is a pretty substantial class for us. And if anybody's interested in the math that goes behind us determining how many students we have, so we subtract the amount of students and a 10% retention rate from the 282, and then to get back to 350, we would need 155 students. All right, so next year's goal for new students is 155. Currently, right now in the lottery window, we have 55 students that have applied to our school. All right, Elena, Elisa, scroll down, please. This is the breakdown by grade. We've made a lot of efforts to recruit in our earlier grades. So, I'm happy to report that we have had some success in that area. We're still getting a large amount of 6th grade students, which is traditional at TCG DC. So overall, I feel like it's a good breakdown. We just need more applications between now and the end of the lottery. Continue, Elisa. These are important dates. So right now, what we have left is the application deadline for our students, which is K through 8. So that's the March 1st deadline. Lottery results won't be released until April 2nd. That month window that we have, students can still apply for the school. And those are our posts. Yeah, Brian, I just got your text. Those are our post lottery applications, and that's something that we really rely on to get those lottery applications after the lottery window. Those are families that we can reach out to directly as they apply, and you know, we can also talk to them about the registration process. Right now, we have limited ability to reach out to families. We can invite them to our open houses, but we're not really supposed to really engage with them in regards to recruitment efforts. So, you know, we have generic conversation, answer questions, but once the lottery is over, then we can be very aggressive in our approach to getting those families registered. We do have 2 open houses remaining. Wednesdays, we have an open house this Wednesday, February 10th at 12 p.m. Brian, just a reminder, this is our afternoon open house. And then we have our finale on the 24th of February from 5 to 6. Okay, you can continue, Elisa. Just some updates since our last board meeting. We have created a new flyer, and it aligns with our direction with the performing arts, performing visual arts. So what we came up with is follow your art, and that's an acronym for achievement, readiness, and transformation. This flyer is designed to get people to our website. So you have right there where you can scan and get to our website, and it has information on the school as well as how to apply. Elisa, I just love it. You're circling what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right or something. But we're really pushing in this direction of the performing visual arts, and I'm happy to have everybody on board with one idea and a brand. That's something that we've been discussing since I came on board with the Children's Guild, is what is the brand of the school, and this is what we're moving forward with in the future. As Brian mentioned before, we did have the Russell Westbrook holiday event. What I'll add is we did have that footage on our social media, and we did get a lot of traction that week. We developed a think tank group. So if anybody is familiar with the think tank group, their sole purpose is to create ideas and have discussions with a common goal in mind. And for us, it's the brains behind all recruitment efforts. You know, I'm humble enough to admit that in this pandemic, like Brian mentioned, like I like being in front of people, like being in front of our students. Those are the environments that I excel in. In this pandemic, we started to run out of ideas. We can't continue to just promote open houses. You know, we got to get creative. So we created a think tank group, and this group consists of members of the admissions team, members of the marketing team, school leadership, school staff, and a parent. And I felt it was very important to have a diverse group in a well-represented group involved. So when we have ideas, not only can we discuss action plans, but you know, we got Brian right there, so we can get them approved. And one of the series that came from the think tank group is the My Community Matter series. So this is something that we're going to launch this month, and we're going to start it in Black History Month, but it's something that we're going to expand on as we continue this academic year. And the idea behind the series is students and community leaders from the 4 different DC quadrants will be recorded talking about important landmarks, monuments, and streets in their community. So we want students from our school that represent, you know, Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, Southwest. And also we're starting to reach out to important leaders in those communities to see if they'll be interested in creating this content. And we'll use this content to market the school. And we wanted to align with the new PVA direction that we're going in. New community relationships. Recently, Brian had spoke to a group of community pastors. We've developed a relationship with Sunshine Daycare, and I don't know why it's not showing in the version that I sent to Elisa, but it's about 4 or 5 different employers and groups in the community that we have connected with, from Tiger Mart, daycares, property management groups. So we're moving in the right direction, especially in this COVID environment where we can't necessarily be out in the community like we would like. We're starting to connect with people in the community, so we can get flyers and we can get yard signs on their property, and make more people aware of our school. And our new hire, Miss Katrina Nash, I actually invited her to come in to introduce herself. Katrina is actually a parent at TCG DC, and she's been one of our day one parents. So she has a lot of experience with the growth of the school, and she has some background in marketing. And I'm showing her the ropes on the admission side. So we're happy to have Katrina. She's already hit the ground running. She's already developed a lot of important relationships, and it's starting to turn into applications. Katrina, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello all, thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Yep.
Hello, so it's a privilege to be a part of such a great team. I'm honored and privileged that Brandon and Brian actually chose me out of one of many parents to be a part of such a great team. The admissions team and the tank group has been spot on. Again, as Brendan said, I have a background in marketing. I have a business degree, and I've worked with human resource management for the last 15 years. So I'm happy to say that I know people and I know what people are looking for. And so working with the Children's Guild as a parent, the love and dedication and commitment that they've had for my baby, I just want to give back. I know our community is looking for someone to kind of bring in families. And so I've been out here talking to people, listening and really connecting with the community. And so I'm happy to be a part of the team. And I look forward to a very, very, very successful school year. COVID is not going to keep us from getting all of these happy faces back in those seats. So again, thank you so much. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for paying off some of this debt, because you owe that boy there. Woo!
And every time I talk to Katrina, she just light up the room and light up the conversation. So we appreciate Katrina, and we're happy to have her. And the last piece is really all of our—
Brandon, before you do that, so her baby is actually one of the ones that I talked about that actually got a call back from Duke Ellington. So big shout out to Cam. And we are looking forward to all of the greatness that he is going to do. But he is definitely a product of his star shining mama. So we appreciate you, mama, for sticking with us from the beginning.
Thank you.
And continuing to help us grow.
And so Cameron has been accepted into Duke. So yay, thank you, Children's Guild.
Congratulations, Cam.
Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That's
Mom, you already knew he was going to get accepted in there. He had that in the bag. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
All right, I guess I got homework to do. I got to finish his paperwork.
Yes, please.
All right.
Yeah, so he's going to pave the way to many more students going into Duke Ellington. So we're extremely happy. And I think that just shows the dedication that Katrina has for the Children's Guild. She has a student that's leaving us, but she's still interested in the growth of the school. So again, we appreciate. The last piece is the marketing, our marketing efforts, which I've talked to before. So again, I just included it if you're interested in reviewing that. But we are excited about the upcoming school year. We know we have a challenge in front of us, but I don't know when it really happened. I think it was around New Year's. I don't know if any of the board members are familiar, but I recently had, my wife recently had a new child, a daughter. So for a little time, like a couple of months, I was kind of caught up in that. But New Year's came about, and those feelings of a new year coming around. 2020 was behind us, and I started to get excited about some of the work that we do, and I started to reflect on why I do this work. And it's because of our kids, and that's my way of making an impact, because I know I can't stand in front of a classroom and teach. Like, it's just not in my capacity. So this is my way of giving back to my community. And I believe that the families that we have involved, the leadership that we have involved, the direction, the conversation that we have, the ideas that are coming from our think tank group, everything is pointing in the right direction. So we know we have a lot of work to do, and we're ready for the work, but we also excited about the opportunities that are in front of us. Any questions?
Actually, I have a question, Brandon. Have you, and I know there was a call last month or so, Dr. Daniels and I were on it, where Pastor McNeil had talked about, things that he may be able to do to help with our recruitment efforts. Have you been able to link up with him?
Not directly with him. I'm relying on Brian in regards to that relationship and how we wanted to develop, but I'm absolutely here ready to have a conversation and to see how we could utilize his presence in the community to bring in students.
Yeah, so Rob, on the 25th of January, Reverend McNeil invited me to the ministry board meeting that they have on a monthly basis. They told me I had between 5 and 8 minutes to speak. There was a musical company that had 5 minutes before I did, and they were bringing all of these gospel artists to the District of Columbia to perform in different areas. And they were done in their 5 minutes, and they went on. I finished my presentation probably in 5 or 6 minutes, but then got questioned for about another 15 to 20 around how we could continue to be a partner with them in the community, how they can get our information to their parishioners, whether we're looking to expand into the district because they have empty churches and empty school buildings that have outdoor spaces. So yeah, Reverend McNeil did his part, and he came through. I just spoke to Corey and Stephen yesterday, and they've instructed me to just go because I was gonna send him my just my thank you letter and follow up to Corey, because he was the one that introduced me to the ministry. But Corey said just to send it directly to Reverend McNeil, so I will send that to him tomorrow and just CC Corey, and I'll CC you on it as the the board chairs, where just so you're in the loop. But yeah, he came through. It was great.
Thank you.
I gotta stop crying now because my baby got in the dupe.
Any other questions for the marketing team or Mr. Turner? All right, having heard none, we will move to the second to last order on the agenda, which is any other business that needs to be brought forward. At this time, I'm opening it up to the floor. All right. I will then motion to adjourn this meeting. Can I have a second?
I second.
All right. Having heard the second, we will properly move to adjourn the meeting today at, 7:34. We're 26 minutes ahead of time. Great job, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Have a great night, you guys. Stay safe, please.
Thank you all.
Why do you sound like a?
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Alicia. Good night, everybody.
No problem. Good night.
You're like right in my face.